Good morning, students. Today we will discuss the fourth chapter of history, 7th class history, that is the Mughal Empire. In this chapter, at first, we will discuss about the remaining part of Akbar's administration, that is provincial administration. As in our previous video, we have discussed about central administration. So, we will discuss about provincial administration. After that, we will discuss about religious policies of Akbar. Later on, we will discuss about Jahangir, who ruled from 1605 to 1627. We will discuss about provincial administration. Akbar's empire was divided into provinces or subas, which were 15 in numbers. These were further divided into sarkars, which were further divided into parganas, and pargana was a group of many villages. And the subas were under a subedar who was a provincial governor and was powerful. He was helped by a number of other officers like the diwan who kept the revenue records, bakshi who looked after the needs of the army, and the kotwal who was the officer in charge of town administration. He looked after the law and order situation, regulated rates and measures, kept a record of the people residing in that area and those who came from outside. Even today, police stations in some part of the country are called kotwalis, and this practice of keeping a record of the people staying in an area is like taking the population census. If we discuss about the army of Akbar, the king had his own standing army which was recruited by him, and soldiers were also supplied by the Mansabdars. Mansabdar basically it was a title in the military of Mughal Empire. And to avoid corruption, what did he do? He also followed the practice of branding of forces and maintaining a descriptive role of every soldier. Branding of horses, this practice was started by Alauddin Khilji. His artillery was well organized and he had 4 elephants and a cavalry. He even started a navy, however, it was not very strong. If we discuss regarding Mansabdari system, look for Mansabdari system. This system was introduced in Akbar's army. According to this system, every noble or officer was given a mansab or rank, and such a person was called a Mansabdar. His rank could vary from 10 to 7,000. For example, a Panch Hazari Mansabdar had to maintain 5,000 troops. A Mansabdar had to maintain a fixed number of troops as per his rank, and they were to be supplied to the king whenever needed at the time of war. He was given a handsome amount to take care of his expenses and to maintain the required troops. And the amount was generally paid by assigning a jagir, that is, by granting land and not by paying cash. Generally, a person who was appointed at a low rank or mansab and was gradually promoted according to the service he provided was known as Mansabdar. A Mansabdar could be transferred from one place to another place to stop him from becoming too powerful. This Mansabdari system was not hereditary system. Revenue system, basically Mansab decides the rank. In Arabic, Mansab means rank. Mansabdari system, this is derived from the word Mansab. And what is the meaning of Mansab in Arabic? It is Mansab is an Arabic term that means rank, and it consisted a hierarchy of officers. Every civil or military officials was given a jagir or piece of land according to his chart or rank. The Mansabdars drew their salaries from the revenue of their land. The Mansabdar had to maintain a certain number of horses for the empires. A new gradation called Savar was introduced to define how many cavalry a military commander was expected to maintain. Hence, the size of the Jagir depended on the chart and the Savar. Akbar also followed the system of Dagwa Chehra. As we know the term as we know, the term Dagwa Chehra is related to the branding of horses, and it had the description of the roles of man to avoid forgery. And if we discuss regarding the revenue system which was prevalent during Akbar's time, we will discuss about land revenue policy. Akbar adopted Sher Shah's system of land revenue, and he introduced certain additional features to bring greater relief to the people. And his chief revenue officer was Raja Todarmal, who was one of the 9 gems in Akbar's court. Todarmal introduced the Shala system. Now the question arises, what was the Shala system? Under the Dashala system, the revenue to be paid in a year was calculated on the basis of a 10-year average of the yield and the prices of the different crops. The quality of the land was considered before fixing the land revenue. The land was divided into 4 groups depending on its fertility and the number of times it was cultivated in a year. The estate took one-third of the average yield and the revenue could be paid in cash or kind. The system of land revenue continued largely unchanged for more than 100 years. If we discuss regarding the Shala system, we can say the revenue was calculated on the basis of 10 years crop production. Under the Dashala system, the government rarely interfered in the affairs of the farmers. However, if the farmers were unable to pay their taxes on time, soldiers were sent to forcibly collect them. Akbar's reign was very famous regarding the Rajput policy because Akbar was the first emperor in Mughal Empire who realized that if he were to be accepted as a monarch of an empire in India, it could not be possible without the support of the Rajputs. He gave important posts to Rajputs and other Hindus in his administration. Raja Todarmal, Raja Birbal, Raja Bihari Mal, his son Bhagwan Das, and grandson Mansingh. They were some of the Rajputs who held important positions in Akbar's court. Akbar gave the Rajputs complete freedom to follow their religion, build temples, celebrate their festivals, and wear their caste mark on their forehead. In fact, he also tried to maintain matrimonial relations with Rajputs so that he could maintain a harmonious relationship between Mughals and Rajputs. The one of the most important policies of Akbar's reign is religious policy. Akbar was a liberal ruler who believed in the equality and unity of all religions. He followed a policy of religious toleration. He employed Hindus in his government and gave many of them high rank. He abolished the religious tax on non-Muslims, and this tax was jizya. Although later on, after Akbar's death, or we can say during later Mughals, it was once again reintroduced, at the time of Aurangzeb. At the time of Aurangzeb, jizya was again imposed. Akbar married Hindu princes and allowed them to practice their religion. He also married the daughter of Raja Bihari Mal of Amir, and their son Salim later became the successor, or we can say the next Mughal emperor after Akbar's death. In 1575, Akbar opened the Ibadat Khana at his new capital Fatehpur Sikri. In Ibadat Khana, he invited people of various faiths to come and discuss matters of religion with him. A few years later, Akbar founded his own religion that was named Deen-e-Ilahi. What is the meaning of Deen-e-Ilahi? Deen-e-Ilahi means divine faith, and it was based on the teachings and beliefs of all the major religions. Ibadat Khana was made in 1575, and he introduced a new religion that was Deen-e-Ilahi. And what is the meaning of Deen-e-Ilahi? That means divine faith. This is Jahangir, who was the son of Akbar and his Rajput wife. We were discussing about Deen-e-Ilahi. It was based on the teachings and beliefs of all the major religions, and it stressed believe in one God. and this new belief made Akbar unpopular with the orthodox Muslims. Din-e-Ilahi did not survive for long after Akbar's death. Akbar was a great patron of art also. He was famous for the brilliance of the court he maintained. In his court were the Navratnas or nine jewels, and they included Tansen, the court singer and musician, Abul Fazl, the court poet and chronicler, who wrote Akbarnama, Birbal, who was known for his wit, Todarmal, his revenue officer, and Mansingh, a renowned general. Akbar was a prolific builder also. An outstanding example of architecture during Akbar's rule is the new capital he built at Fatehpur Sikri. At Fatehpur Sikri, you can see a beautiful blend of Indian, Persian, and a Central Asian style of architecture. In 1605, Akbar was died, and later on he was succeeded by his son Jahangir. If we see architecture during Akbar's reign, Fatehpur Sikri, and this city was built of red sandstones. Rani Jodhabai's palace, Panch Mahal, and Diwani Khas. The Buland Darwaza at Fatehpur Sikri was added to commemorate Akbar's victory over Gujarat, and it is the highest gateway in India and one of the biggest in the world. Why did Akbar choose Fatehpur Sikri as his capital? It was chosen by him because it was the birthplace of Salim Chishti, a Sufi saint for whom Akbar had a great respect. The mausoleum over the tomb of Salim Chishti is made of marble and has beautiful mother of pearl and ebony inlay work on it. People from all over visit the tomb, which also has a lot of marble latex. And another example of architecture of this period is Humayun's tomb at New Delhi. It is on a raised platform and has many domes and arcs. It was enclosed in a garden and has a big gateway. The well-lit garden and the massive gateway seem to be common to most Mughal tombs. Sikandra, Akbar's tomb near Agra, which was started by Akbar himself. It was a huge structure without a dome. The Mughal type of architecture also influenced temple architecture, and an example of this is the Govindev temple at Vrindavan. It is made of red sandstone and shown a distinct mixture of two styles. Now we will see the time period of Jahangir. Akbar was succeeded by his son Salim in 1605. He took on the name of Jahangir upon his accession to the throne. Jahangir was also a liberal in his outlook like his father. He had a love of learning, was tolerant and deeply interested in the welfare of his subjects. So highly did he value justice that he had hung a chain of bells outside the palace. Anyone who had a grievance could tug the ropes of the chain and would receive a hearing from the king. He also continued Akbar's policy of winning over the Rajputs through matrimonial alliances. If we discuss about the conquest of Jahangir, in the very first year of his reign, his son Khusro rebelled against him and was defeated at Lahore. His Rajput policies led him to subjugate Mewar, which had eluded Akbar. He gave the Rajputs positions in the administration. The fort of Kangra was captured and later Ahmednagar was annexed. But its powerful minister Malik Amir could not be subdued. The Portuguese had also come and settled down in the west coast of India. To start with, Jahangir had cordial relations with them and they were given trade concessions. However, repeated Portuguese harassment and looting of Indian ships led to a decline in the relations between them and in the Mughals. The conflicts between them increased. When Jahangir was informed that the Sikh Guru Arjan Dev had aided Khusro in his rebellion, he was enraged and imposed a fine on the Guru. Arjan Dev refused to pay the fine. Furious at the disobedience, Jahangir had Arjan Dev executed. This execution of the fifth Guru Arjan Dev sparked off a long and bitter struggle between the Sikhs and the Mughals. If we discuss about Jahangir's rule, this is also famous because of his wife Noor Jahan. The real name of Noor Jahan was Mehrunisa, but this name was given by Jahangir as it means light of the world. In 1611, Jahangir married Mehrunisa, the widow of Sher Afghan, Jagirdar of Bengal. He made her his chief queen with the title of Noor Jahan. She acquired tremendous power and influence over the king, exerted her authority in all matters of discussions, administration. She appointed her relatives and favorites to high positions and even had royal firmans and coins issued in her name. Jahangir issued many silver and gold coins, some bearing images only of him, and many with images of his wife Noor Jahan on the other side. We can say Noor Jahan took most of the decisions in the court and she became a co-regent. However, her rise to power divided the court into two different groups, that is, those who were in favor of her and those who were against her. This led to conflicts and rivalry among the nobles, and which damaged the Mughal Empire. Later, Jahangir's feeling health led to an open struggle of power between his own son Shah Jahan and Noor Jahan. A number of nobles revolted against Noor Jahan, and Jahangir died in 1627, and he was buried at Lahore. Later on, Noor Jahan became this tomb. This is the tomb of Itmaduddaulah, who was the father of Noor Jahan. Basically, if we discuss regarding Jahangir's rule, it was famous for painting, as he also had 9 painters in his court, like Vishan Das, and later on he was succeeded by Shah Jahan. His rule was also famous for justice. So in our next video, we will discuss about Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb also.